Everyone, welcome to another episode of Period Cleaning Detail, and I am Ricky. I actually own Period Cleaning Detail in Southern California. So I wanted to talk to you guys about stuff that I've learned, mistakes that I've made that I've learned from, and things to help you improve your business if you are getting into the detailing business. For starters, why that's pretty much why I do this channel to teach you guys. And if you have anything to teach me or anything you want to talk about, feel free to mention in the comments or email me at purelookingdetail.com or at purelookingdetail@gmail.com. So I'm hoping that you guys can take something from this. If not, at least for your entertainment, I'm gonna share some stories with you guys and stuff that's happened that has been pretty crazy or just random things that I found in the car. And yeah, let's get right into it. So actually today I have a story. I was waxing a car today, and it was supposed to be sunny at least for the next couple of days, and we were supposed to get rain. But since I'm waxing the car and pretty much protecting it from the elements anyway with the wax I use, I figured even if I wash it today, it's gonna be shiny for the next couple of days, and even if it rains, at that point the car's protected at least from the rain. But unfortunately, I was working on the car today, and midway through, when I was doing the waxing process, I felt like drops falling on my head, and I thought, well, that must have been the polisher. Like maybe it got wet somehow and like spat up a little bit of water and landed on my head. So I thought nothing of it, and I started feeling more and more like, wait, the polisher isn't wet, the foam pad isn't wet. And then I started looking at the car itself, areas where I had just finished waxing it and polishing it. And sure enough, there was like little droplets all over. And I kind of got upset because I'm like, well, it wasn't supposed to rain today. I thought about bringing out, I have a canopy I use, but I didn't bring it out because it was overcast, but it wasn't rainy, so I didn't really need it. And I thought, well, should I bring it out or not? And then it wasn't enough for me to justify bringing it out. So I just let it happen. And I thought like, well, it's going to go away. So when I was halfway through the car doing one side, it started pouring even more. So I started getting more wet. I'm like, oh man, I really should bring the canopy out. And then I brought it out, and right when I was about to pull it out and set it up, it stopped raining. I'm like, cool, almost done with the outside. I'm good, And then I started doing the inside. I started doing just like a basic cleaning inside with my vacuum and everything. And when you know it, as soon as I start going to the back seats, vacuuming the seats, I feel my legs. I'm wearing shorts. I feel my legs getting soaked on. I'm like, what the hell? So I look outside, and it's like you can smell the water coming down. It's not just like little droplets. It's like a bunch of the ground is really wet now, and I have to like close the car, step away for a few minutes because it looked like I looked up at the sky and didn't look like it was gonna last that long. There was like a big gap between the clouds, and I didn't see any more clouds coming. Well, I just put the vacuum away for a little bit, hidden underneath my van's door on the back door, so it wouldn't get wet. And then I waited for like half an hour for that to happen. I thought about just telling the person, you know what, it's not working out today. I'll come back another time. But and half an hour passes by, everything starts to dry up, it stops raining. Unfortunately, the car is covered in not just water, because I would have been fine with just wiping off the water, but there was a lot of wind blowing as well, so a bunch of dust landed on top of little water droplets. So it ended up being like really, like you can see the dust starting to stick in the droplets and making it look like really dirty again. I'm like, I just finished washing and waxing this car, so I'm like, you know what, forget it. I'll just worry about the inside now before it starts raining again. So I did the inside again, so just the doors wouldn't get wet or anything else would get wet. But as soon as I did that, I just ended up getting I use a waterless washer. So I got a spray with spray bottle full of waterless washer, and I started spraying it everywhere and just like wiping it off with a little bit of wax on it so it wouldn't take away all the wax that I just put on. And I wiped it off, and as soon as I did, like I told the customer, okay, it's done. Even if it rains, the car's protected for the next couple of months with the wax that I put on. But I just didn't want it to rain anymore. She was a little bit upset that it started raining, but you can't control the weather. That's something that here in California, at least, that you might think it's really sunny and beautiful one day, all of a sudden it's back to being rainy. That's how it is here. So I mean, she was upset, but by the time I wiped it all off, she was happy, and she was like, she understood it's not my fault. I can't control the weather, and I left it at that. But it's just like it was frustrating that it took longer to finish the car. I was hoping to finish within like an hour and a half at most, and then I'm finishing in 2, which it is what it is. I just didn't want to risk the equipment getting wet, so yeah, that's one thing that happened today. So that being said, one of some of the things I've learned when it comes to that, and a lot of people don't talk about this as a business perspective. One of the biggest things to have for any case where a customer's going to be upset or there's a possibility of damaging or anything happens, that the best thing you should have is, as a business perspective, is to have insurance to cover in case of any incidents that might happen, including injuries to a worker or yourself, which I do have. And I'm very fortunate that my wife helped me find a policy for that. But yeah, it's definitely overlooked in the detailing community. You hear about people telling you about like different things you should use for your business, like equipment, all that stuff. By the way, that's not my fall off, but it's fine. And they don't really talk about stuff like insurance. And I do have it. I just don't like to advertise it to customers or on my van or anywhere else, because you just never know. Unfortunately, there's always going to be people who are out to get you, no matter how good or bad you do. So unless I really need to disclose it or anybody asks me, I will disclose it. But just for the sake of avoiding those kind of issues where someone may make a false claim, say they're going to take me to court because the scratch was already there, stuff like that. I don't advertise it. But if I do mess up in some way, or if I get injured because I'm doing a job and I fall off a ladder or something like that, I'm covered for that. And if you work with any major companies, like I work with a certain rental company here, it is required for them. And it's really useful to have that, especially if you're trying to get like fleet deals. So really look into that. I don't pay very much on it, so it depends on your company, your state, and all that stuff. I pay less than 100. I'll just say that. But it all depends. It is different if you have a shop. My business is a mobile. It's based on home, but it does cover my mobile details. It's different if you have a shop with tools, different machinery, and all that stuff. So consider all of that. That being said, we talk about expenses. Expenses are different depending, like I said, on your state or where you live, your manufacturers, your shops that you go to. There's obviously the chain, something like Chemical Guys. They're kind of a chain. They're based in nationwide. They're pretty much standard in price everywhere. I use some local manufacturers. I love their stuff, and but I don't stick to one single manufacturer. I don't stick to one provider of supplies. That being said, I do appreciate my providers, but you have to compare what is best for you to make more profits. So, for example, I have a lot of customers asking me about Chemical Guys. I like Chemical Guys as far as a consumer product. They're really great. They do have some really amazing stuff. I use their invisible cleaner a lot whenever I do get it. Unfortunately, it's hard to get in a gallon size, so I have to get 16-ounce sizes here in where I live, which goes by fast unless like I only use it for small spots. But that's the problem with it. For me as a profit, I don't get to use it as much. Like I said, I get the 16 ounces. I just spray little spots that really need it. So if you're doing it as a business, I would suggest you look into gallon sizes, no matter what it is. If you can get a gallon of it, it's better. Yeah, way you make more profit because you can stretch it out. But Yeah, look at if you can't compare also different brands for the same. A lot of the products are the same. They're just differently branded. It's funny because I actually saw an ad for Costco, and it was this. It looked like. Here, let me get it real quick. It looked like if you've seen like those quick detailers. If you've seen those quick detailers, it looks like this. This is from my local product provider right here. It's a quick detailer. It's something you just use whenever you're done detailing a car and just add that shine to make it look perfect. So it looked exactly like this. Like it was that pink liquid looking thing. And it said it actually smells like almond, like sweet almond kind of thing, which this kind of does. So I thought that was interesting. I thought like, well, is it the same thing? It says pretty much the same thing. It says it cleans. It's a multi-surface cleaner. It takes away fingerprint spots. It keeps away dust and all that stuff. I'm like, well, that's what this does, you know. So I thought about like, well, is it cheaper to get that? And I'll try it out, see if it's the same thing. I'll try it out if it's cheaper. Well, I look at the website at Costco, and it's like it's not even a full gallon. Like this is a gallon of the product. Sorry, there it is. That's a gallon of this product, which I've used for like a year. And look at it. There's still a lot. There's just like half of it left, a little less than half. So that one was like, I think it was like maybe $20 at most. And the one that they're advertising at Costco is like 25, and it is half a gallon, and it does have a 32-ounce bottle with it and some rags. But I mean, I could care less about the rags. I have my own rags that I use. I don't know what quality the rags are, but I mean, again, 25, it's $5 you're saving, but hey, it's $5 more you keep for your own pocket, and you get to stretch that out. I usually dilute this because it's just like an express detailer, and I have a lot. Like I said, I've done like, I don't know, a couple hundred cars with that, if I even use it. So that's a really good lesson to keep your profits up. Like compare products from different manufacturers. So if you are starting though, I mean, one of the best go to without spending a lot of money on a big bottle of product is obviously Chemical Guys, just because they do offer those 16-ounce sizes. Sometimes they have deals online, and you can buy bundles there. That's actually where I got my first polisher on my own. It was a torque polisher. It's like, I think I got it for like 130, and it had like the different foam pads. I'll bring them up right now. They were different foam pads, a polishing pad plus like 3 different polishing liquids. So that's something you might want to look to if you're just starting. And also, if you are just starting as a detailer, think about where you want to go with this. Are you just trying to do basic stuff? In other words, you're a car wash and just label yourself a car wash just because it makes it easier to get that kind of customer versus someone who wants full-on restoration. Sorry, I can't talk right now. Restorations and ceramic coatings and all that stuff. So you can probably make a lot more money in that sense because you don't have to deal with hours of work. You can just do a quick car in and out, and then do volume, focus on volume if that's what you're into. See what equipment you're gonna need, what you actually need, not just what you see on Instagram from other detailers. Like I myself I don't use the pressure washers. I used to with my dad. I don't use them anymore. Just because, first of all, it takes a lot of room. I have a van that I use, but it's just a normal van. It's not even a cargo van. It's a normal van that I use, and I can load 100-gallon. Oh, there it goes. I can load a 100-gallon tank, but it's just gonna slow the van down. It's gonna wear out the suspension. It's just too much weight for it. And the gas is already expensive enough on a van, so I don't want to take any more MPGs from that. And then plus they have to carry the pressure washer, which a lot of times if you don't get the right one, you won't get the right amount of pressure from the tank, because then you have to buy a pump if your pressure washer doesn't have a pump in it. So it's just extra spending you have to do. And less profit, because you don't really know if you're starting how many cars you're gonna get, um, and if you're even gonna get the right customers, or they're gonna bail on you when it comes to setting an appointment. So I recommend you start with something even as simple if as asking them if you can use their water, or their power. I think it's fair enough for you to ask uh, if I can use your water or power. I mean, if you're asking them before you go, because if you go and you're like, oh well, I don't have any water, and a lot of people, they think of detailers, they think of like, oh, this guy has power or whatever. So it's just, you can just ask. Don't be afraid to ask. So let's move on to some of the mistakes I've made and what I learned from them. So I actually learned one of my biggest lessons when I was doing cars with my dad. I was like, I don't know, 12 years old at the time. And so my dad took me because I wanted to learn about detailing. That was pretty cool, especially because he did have higher end customers that had like Lambos and stuff like that. So I think one of the biggest things I did there was we went to remove decals from this RV, and my job was to like take off the stickers and then take off the residue that was left over. Well, it's funny because I don't think it would make sense now, seeing how I've dealt with the same kind of issues and done it in the same way. But anyway, so I took off the stickers, and then I, with a heat gun, and then I used I think it was Goof Off, or yeah, Goof Off. It was like a liquid to remove like sticky substances. And I remember like I got a towel and I started, rubbing it away, and then it was coming out. I mean, it's coming off fine. Like the residue was coming off fine, and there was this one little spot that I tried getting off, and it wouldn't come off. I'm like, what the hell? So I started rubbing more and putting more liquid, and started rubbing more and more, until eventually I took off the paint, you know. And I remember like, oh, I started panicking. I'm like, oh shit, like did I do it wrong or whatever? And I started doing it more, and I started taking off more paint. So I ended up telling my dad, and my dad thought he was, he wasn't, he wasn't happy about that, obviously. But the guy came out. My dad told him straight up what happened, and the guy he was pissed. I mean, I get it. It's your RV, your vehicle that's getting damaged. But luckily, my dad has, had insurance, and he ended up talking to the guy and told him like, oh, don't worry, my insurance will take care of that. We'll change information, and he ended up doing that, and the guy ended up being cool. My dad wasn't happy about it because he did lose, that customer, unfortunately. But then you realize that, well, if you're being honest with the customer in that situation, and you tell them like, look, I have insurance, we'll take care of it, and they still don't, even though they might appreciate, say like it's okay at the moment, they'll deal with the insurance. But the fact that they were just like, they didn't call my dad back because of that, I'm like, well, he's been doing your car for like, years. He's always done a pretty great job, and just because I messed up, I was a kid, like they didn't let it go, and I'm like, well, maybe that's not a customer you want anymore, even if it was my mistake. And that's one thing you should always look out for. You are going to make mistakes, and I do think you should be upfront with the customer as soon as you notice that the mistake was made. If there are damages, like you said, you have insurance, or they have insurance, and we'll deal with that. But it's always best to be honest with them, and it's also a learning opportunity. And take it as that. Even if you lose the day, if you lose the income for the day, it sucks. But don't beat yourself up too much about it. Learn from it. And sometimes you even make simple mistakes, like I don't know, say you're using a polisher, and then a little pebble out of nowhere gets stuck in the polisher, or something falls, and then you start creating little swirls. Well, most of the time it's a learning opportunity to know how to take care of swirls, because you get to polish those off. So don't beat yourself too much about mistakes or anything like that. Just learn from it. There's going to be a lot of little things that happen that sometimes are even under your control. But I do recommend you have insurance, and I keep going back to that because it's just overlooked a lot. And then sometimes you are going to find some random stuff. So I think when I before I started detailing on my own, I was actually detailing cars for a rental company as an employee. And one of the craziest things that I found was I found a live grenade in the back seat. It was in a little case, and I didn't know what it was until I opened it, and I saw the grenade and what it looked like. And then told my boss, and they're like, "We have to call the police." And they call the police. They come, they take it away, and then they give us their number, but they did tell us it was a live grenade. So that was insane. I'm just doing my job. If had I pulled it, I don't know what would have happened. Maybe it was a dud, but it was, they said it was live. So yeah, that's one of the worst things that I've found, craziest things I found. Um, what have I dealt with that has been the worst? I think I don't want to get too graphic, but I do remember that's one time I was driving someone around because I used to drive for those rideshare companies, and I had a passenger, and I remember that they were getting out of the car, and then I drove off, and then I started smelling something. It smelled funky, I smelled like, what is it? It smells like fish. I started smelling it. Why does it smell like fish? And I remember one of the girls was eating. I thought like, well, was she eating fish? That's weird. And then I'm like, I finally couldn't take it anymore. So I'm like, let me check what's in the back. And there was nothing. And then I started looking more closely, and there was these three little dots. So I turned on my lights, and then there were three little red dots, and I'm like, oh no, oh no. And it was I guess the girl was on her period and left me behind three little dots. It smelled really bad. It smelled straight up like fish. So I ended up having to on the spot. Luckily, like at that time, I was not a full detailer yet, but I was starting to get into it. So I had like all these things in the back of my trunk. I had an all-purpose cleaner, and luckily I had alcohol out of nowhere. I had rubbing alcohol. So I sprayed the all-purpose cleaner and then threw some rubbing alcohol, and then I ended up using like 2 or 3 racks, which I threw away after that. Like I wasn't gonna use them anymore. I was so grossed out. And luckily enough, it came out. So that was my first experience cleaning up blood. Um, wouldn't be the last. I mean, you'd be surprised with the stuff you find when you detail cars. And I think it's always funny to me how when you work on family cars, you end up finding like the most random stuff. I think the one thing I always find in cars with kids, like vans and all that stuff, with family cars, like I always end up finding nuggets, like chicken McNuggets or just like homemade nuggets. Like they're always like in between the seats, and when I start vacuuming, my vacuum always gets stuck, and I always think it's like some sort of toy. No, it's always a nugget that gets stuck there. So it's just funny sometimes. And I think that you should be aware of finding stuff like that. You should always have gloves. Like one of the number one things, especially now with COVID, gloves. Make sure they're not they're I use nylon, I think, gloves. I don't use those thin ones. I use like really thick, like mechanic gloves almost, like for shop, which might be hard to find nowadays. But if you find them, like just get them because you're gonna need them. Um, I do have a hazmat suit that I use. Well, like just like a whole bodysuit I put on just in case there's a hazardous material, whether it be like bodily fluids and stuff like that, which does happen, especially with people go to bars or whatever. I have goggles. I have, obviously I have my mask that I wear, my disposable mask. Stuff like that. You should be aware of that, especially because you're going to people's cars. Maybe most of the time they're going to be strangers if you're doing it as a business. And yeah, and I think I'm gonna pull up some stuff that I'm gonna show you guys that I have. So first up, I want to show you guys off my little spacer here in my rack here that I use for my towels. I put some liquids down here. They're mostly in the van right now, but yeah, I use that. If you can find a rack, that'd be great, especially if you're doing stuff out of your house. But as far as the other stuff, I do have my foam pads. This is more of a finishing pad for like just straight up waxes, something that doesn't have to be spread so much. This is my heavy duty one. I think this one's pretty much done at this point, but I have other ones of the same kind. This is like more cutting than the other one is. And very important, when you wash a car, Gotta have something like this. This is a microfiber mitt, which funny no one uses as the actual mitt because it just keeps slipping off. So I just took that off and I just use it like this. But make sure it's high quality. This one actually is from Chemical Eyes, which is, I'm really loving this. It's like, I think I got it for like $6 at the time, and it does work. It does reduce scratches. You can't say that something's gonna eliminate scratches, because there's always that possibility. Even if it's not your fault, there's always gonna be the chance that you're gonna end up dropping a pebble somewhere, or like something just falls in the car and you don't notice because you're like washing it. So, but this does reduce the chances of that. One of the biggest expenses you're gonna have, your towels. So make sure you spend the money on the right towels. These I got from my local retailer provider. Shout out to Carlo. They're my local guys here. These are like, I think these are 350 GSM. So they're pretty thick. They're not dirty. That's just wet. I put them out of the washer right now. And they're plush, but they're not too plush where I can actually use them. I use these for my waterless washing. So I have those. I have a couple of those. They're not the cheapest, but they get the job done. They're so well worth it. And just remember, try to not use the most expensive towels on cars that are like extremely dirty or like mud or anything like that. Don't use these for wheels. Don't use, find the right ones for what you're using. Because I think these were like $25 for like 12. So they're not, they're not cheap, but they're still pretty good. A couple over here. And then for my other towels, I do have my blue ones here. These are thinner, and these are my glass towels. I have a couple for kind of like the same, but they're a little bit plusher. They're for applying sealants and waxes, liquid waxes, like stuff like that, and wiping that off, and for my clay bars. Now, one of the biggest things I do like from Chemical Guys, one of the best things from Chemical Guys, I think, are their scents. This is the leather scent from Chemical Guys. It's 16 ounces, but this will last you at least, depending on how you use it, but at least, it lasted me at least 6 months with all the cars that I do. It could last you more depending on the cars. I have that one, the leather scent. And then I also have the new car scent. I tried to use the new car scent more with just normal cars, and I use the leather scent for stuff that actually has leather, just to add the little extra, nice smell to it. And some of the stuff that I found is like stuff like this, a little glass repellent, water repellent. So you can actually add this as an add-on. You can get this from like Walmart for like $8 at most, or I think this one was $5 to be honest. And you spray it on, you wipe it off, and it creates the water beading on the glass, so it makes it easier to see, kind of like a coating. And then you can charge. If I charge like $10 for that, and it's just a simple application you put on there. Should last your customer a long time. And then I've made some other bargain shop buys because they were on sale, and I ended up not using them as much. So you gotta be careful, even if it is a bargain. I got this from 3D. It's a green apple scented air freshener. And I gotta tell you, most of this was because I spilled it. Because I used it maybe on like 5 cars. And the customers complained that it was too strong. And then you gotta be careful a lot of times with these fruity scents. Because customers, even though it might smell like a fresh fruit or whatever it is, a lot of customers don't like super sweet scents. So you gotta be careful about that. I stick to neutral scents. If I do have anything else, because I think I have another one that I carry on the van. It's a margarita one, like a strawberry margarita. I do ask if I know that the customer likes those scents, because they had previous air fresheners. I ask them, like, do you want me to spray this on there, or do you want something more neutral? So be aware of that. Everybody is different. Some people are sensitive to like sweet smells. And one of the worst purchases I made was this thing right here. It's a scrubbing pad for the carpet, upholstery cleaner, but it's one of those you put on the polisher, and you stick it on. It's a Velcro back. Stick it on, and then it starts like, just with the rotation of the polisher, it'll supposedly clean. I got it from someone here, a local shop, but I can't really be too upset at them, because it's not just them. It's just a thing with these Velcro backs, these hook and loop ones. I tried using it, and it might be just my polisher that didn't have enough power, but it didn't really spin. It ended up just like going like this the whole time. It just getting stuck, especially with, you know, fabric. It won't go anywhere. So, you know, I use it very rarely, and I think it's too tough on leather. I mean, on the seats themselves, upholstery. So you might actually cause damages and, you know, pull the threads out, whatever. So one of the biggest things that happened to me was I was pulling it off the machine, the Velcro, the glue started, see right here? The glue started pulling apart from there. So that didn't last very long. This is a replacement for the first one I bought, and I didn't end up using it as much. But yeah, I think that's all I have right now. That's pretty much it. I have another canopy here, which I rarely use because it's just old. So, you know, just find whatever you think is going to work for you. Try to set a budget. It really is about setting a budget, because the more you spend, the less you make. So focus on that. I do suggest, if you don't want to spend the money on the, you know, the whole machine setup, I do suggest you go buy a rinseless wash or a waterless wash. I use ONR, which is really great. I just don't advertise myself as a rinseless washer, because even though we're so advanced with technology when it comes to detailing, it's not the same as it used to be. People are still think as detailers is just like the same old pressure washer water guys, and they freak out when I say I'm rinseless, because they think I'm gonna scratch their car or whatever. But look, in all honesty, like, first of all, I've been doing this for years as a rinseless detailer, and there's really very little I cannot do with that, unless the car is like really like heavily full of mud or heavily soiled, and I can't do that. I have to rinse it off first. But there's rarely occasions where I can't do a car, because I can even do it in direct sunlight. And I've tested on different cars. I've tested it on black cars. I've tested it on darker color cars. And as long as you use the right rags, like this one right here, and you work quickly, if you're in the sun, I mean, you can get it done. The scratches won't be there unless you're like putting a lot of pressure and like really scrubbing, like, which you're not supposed to do anyway, even if you had a water-based system. But I don't advertise it just because I don't want people to freak out. But once I do it, and especially if they're not like hovering over you, and they come out and they're like, oh, the car looks so amazing, which happens all the time with me, even if they know I'm not using water, they come out and they're like, oh, it looks so amazing, it looks like even better than the dealership. Like, that's what matters. Think about the method, not the results, not the method. So focus on that. And that's pretty much it for today. I'm gonna bring out some more stuff next time. I'll show you what else I have. Maybe show off the van. I need to clean it up, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and can subscribe. If you have any suggestions, I'm also learning with you guys. So if anything you want to suggest, please send it my way at purelycleandetail@gmail.com. If you have anything you want to talk about, any questions, please feel free to ask. Because I do want to cover other myths and stories behind like stuff like ceramic coatings, different polishers, or just stuff like that. So if you can, please subscribe and like this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.